Oh, guess what time it is? That's right, this week's episode is brought to you by amaudiomedia.com, home of the Doctor Who audio play. We had them on the podcast a while back. When was it? June the 21st. We had a great time and they were hilarious and so forth. We're going to have them back. Also, we're going to be a fan expo this year and we're going to see them. We're going to hang out with them. So go to the website, listen to their Doctor Who audio play, and tell them the droids sent ya. Woo! Chimichanga. Video game review. Telltales, The Walking Dead. Amid the Ruins. Telltale's fourth installment of The Walking Dead Season 2 is now out. I just finished the game, and to tell you, there are some pros, but there is also some cons from this video game. Now, the storyline continues after Kenny is just recently beaten to the end of his life, but finally gets a chance to exact his revenge by killing Carver. Unfortunately, many people from their group has perished at this point. So this episode takes place in the thick of things. Zombies are now overrunning the encampment that was once Carver's castle, if you would like to call it that. And now they're running out of options. Covered in zombie guts and frightened out of their minds, the group continues to work their way through the zombie horde. Now, I'm not going to try and give away too many things during this review, but it's only fair that certain points are talked to. It has to. And as well, if you will be concerned about any spoilers that will be heard, you may want to stop listening now. Storyline. Now this episode focuses more on the humanity of the characters. You see a new version of Kenny, and what I mean by new version, there's a specific scene where he looks up at Clementine and all you think about is the governor. And as well, Clementine is now put in precarious situations where she has to constantly pick who lives and who dies. You also meet a character named Jane, which you were introduced briefly in the episode 3, however now you have a, as I would call, a Michonne-Andrea hybrid character, who is constantly trying to be the leader of the group, but also trying to be the loner of the group at the same time. I know, it doesn't make sense, and I find that a lot of the part of the storylines relate back to the actual TV show, and a lot of Easter eggs constantly revolving back to the TV show. So it feels like now, opposed from the first season, that they have no creativity and they're running out of ideas for the storyline. So this is one of those situations where we need to go back to the storyline and really branch off from the TV show. There's no real relation to the comic book, but I find that as the game progresses, it's getting closer and closer to where the storyline is in the TV show, and it's making me lose my interest. Gameplay. Now, the thing that really bothers me about the gameplay in this game is that, well, one, it's a point and click, which we already understood that from the 9 episodes the predecessor, including Back to the Future and Shadows Among Us, I think is what it was called. But at this point, I think the game mechanics in terms of not incorporating a run feature is very pathetic at this point. I think a run feature not in the game really drags it out. There's a scene where you're in the museum looking around, and the scene takes that much longer just walking around staring at things that I found myself not interested in whatsoever. So I found that this is maybe laziness on the developer's end, and they should really reevaluate the fact that there's no running option. I know I've brought this up before, but it's really starting to get annoying. Replay value. Like any other Walking Dead episode, there is obviously replay value, because there's multiple ways that you can go through the episode. Now, either way, which I won't spoil too much, you will have to make life and death situations continuously. And that's what makes a game unique from other video games, because there's always some type of hidden Easter egg that will save the day that you just happen to look at. Not in The Walking Dead. It's always about life and death, and that's what I appreciate about this game more than anything, is that it's constantly putting you into that. Now, the replay value of this episode is a lot better than the previous one, because I didn't feel like it was as dry. So, this is a game you should definitely try at this point. Overall impressions. Well, as Telltale continues on getting more franchises over the next year or so, and I believe they've also collected a Game of Thrones franchise as well, I think there's a lot of positives and negatives that are coming out of this game. I think the positives are the following: good storytelling, good voice acting, and finally, good character development. I think those are huge things right now. If you have those things in any type of storyline, you will keep any person. And Mass Effect is a standing example that no matter how the ending happens with that game, the storyline, voice acting built up to it is what keeps you involved. Now, the negatives. The first thing that comes to mind, which I already complained about, the running. And then what also annoys me is the lack of creativity. I think that we spent a little bit more time building up more of a storyline away from the TV show. That would be better. So, no TV show storyline ripoffs. And finally, spend a little bit more time on the graphics of the game. Understanding that it's cell-based and you want it to feel like a comic book, it doesn't necessarily have to feel that way. So go ahead and make a little bit more gore and make it a little bit more realistic. Alright, so with that said, with everything said and done, what's my final review? It's 4 out of 5. Pretty awesome, I know. I think the game has a lot to offer, and especially how it ended, it really makes you think on how this is going to end. As we remember the end of Season 1, how shocking it was with the death of Lee, so now we're really building up to the end of Season 2, and there's been so much death at this point. So with that said, give this game a download. Of course it's worth the $4.99 on the PlayStation Store, or whatever points on the Xbox Store as well. And definitely, you will find yourself engulfed into it, and you will replay it just because you want to know the other storyline and what it will look like. So with that said, enjoy your chimichanga, and I hope this review helps.
Game over, man! It's game over!
Thanks for listening to the Droids You Are Looking For podcast. Stay tuned for next week's podcast.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.